from Ottawa. Welcome to the 1999 Canadian National Ultimate Championship, the 13th annual from Ottawa. I'm Andy Hennon here, joined along by Manon Desgrossiers and James McKellar on color. We have the finals here for the men's competition, actually the open competition. Furious George from Vancouver and Wax from Ottawa. Wax, the defending national championships, but James, we were discussing off air how Furious George has dominated this entire tournament up to this point.
Well, Furious has given a great show at Worlds, and really it's going to take a miracle for Wax to win this one.
Now, I know Wax from Ottawa, you're familiar with this team. Now, I know James just said it's going to take a miracle. What kind of miracle are we talking about here? What are they going to have to do?
Furious George has been winning handily most of the tournament. For Wax to pull it together, we're going to have to see some pretty tough playing.
So some key players from both teams for Ottawa Wax. First, James.
Well, the big key players is Jamie Hoover. He has to be big, long. He's right now lined up at number 6. He's really their long game. He's their deep threat. So for them to get anything on Furious, they've got to get him down in the end zone to start scoring some points.
Now, Furious George, they like the long game, as here is the opening pull. Wax will receive as this one drifts out of bounds.
That's a brick. That's going to be 20 yards up. They really like to punish the players if it's going out of play. They want to keep the game moving and quick.
Gives them a chance to set up.
So a 20-yard penalty, and Wax moves up the sideline here.
They'll move it also to the middle of the field, I believe.
What's happening now is Wax is setting up in a standard man offense, which is a stack with what they call a Batman and Robin. It's a dump and a swing. When it hits about stall 6, you'll see the dump start out trying to get this disc.
So here we go, and there are 10 stalls as Liebert, and that pass intended for Hoover goes out of bounds, and so Furious George will take over.
They have to keep this one on the sideline, and you're going to see them try and throw it into the middle to open up the field.
And they also like to go long, you were saying.
They sure do. You watch, this will go right into the back corner of the end zone once it goes middle if they can get it.
And here is McDonald handling the disc. Gives it off to Kai Fu. Fu with one that sails on him. It is a little bit windy here. It's intercepted by Ottawa Wax, and they will turn it back. Into the middle of the field. Handled by number 13, Tether. He gives it over to Sullivan. And now Ayub will handle. Back over to Tether. So it seems that they set up when they're handlers. And there's Hoover coming up for one. Makes a nice grab. And into the end zone they go. They can't complete the pass. It was intended for number 1, Peter Knowles. And so Furious George takes over here. Al Nichols up the sideline he goes. Move to about midfield where Evan Wood will control. Wood being watched. And this is a long one into the end zone and knocked down by Ottawa Wax. And the hometown crowd shows their appreciation for that.
There's that long game I was telling you about, and they had Jamie back there to play D. Wax needs Jamie on both sides of the field, and Chris Sullivan, who's not on this point.
And so Ottawa Wax will take control, and on an interception or a turnover in the end zone, do they walk it out to the line? Is that what they're doing?
That's correct. They walk it up to the front of the end zone line and resume play from there.
Here is Tether. Tether finds Knowles. Knowles tries to go to the middle of the field. A shoestring catch made by Trevor Pound. And now disc intercepted by number 8 for Furious George, Kai Fu.
Such turnovers are uncharacteristic of a men's finals.
Really, these teams are just still feeling each other out to see what the game is going to be. They want to know if it's going to be a short handling game or a long game yet.
Mitch Scott will control now for Furious George. Bending into the end zone, and that's the first score of the game. Evan Wood came down with it, and Furious George takes a 1-0 lead here in the open final. We were watching these two teams in the warm-up, and they can really pass the disc very, very well. So you were just mentioning that the turnover is a bit uncharacteristic, but maybe nerves playing a part here.
I think Wax is also trying to outplay themselves. Wax is going to try and play their biggest game this year right now against Furious. They want a good showing in the national finals. They are the champs. But for them to get 6 points, it'll be a good game, just because Furious is so strong.
And now Furious George gets set to pull. 1-0 they lead. This game going to 17, to 19, or 17. We'll see what happens when we get there.
They're also playing with a time cap.
The women's final to follow immediately here, and an absolutely glorious day for the tournament. But the wind is playing a factor here as we get set for the pull.
This is the first Ultimate built field that they've had, I guess, in the world. And I think we have 17 fields purposely built for Ultimate and owned by Ultimate players. It's a fantastic facility.
And here is Furious George with the pull. Handled by Ayub. They're looking long for Hoover. He shook it off, and now here's Tether. Tether controlling the disc. Coming very close to the 10 stalls. A nice catch picked up off the ground by Peter Knowles. Now Knowles floats it in there to number 22, Chris Sullivan. Sullivan, his pass knocked out of bounds. Good defensive play by Mike Enns on the Furious George club.
DJ on that play was wide open in the end zone, and you can see how much Wax respects Furious's long game. They didn't want to send that anywhere near the end zone.
Krushank looking to get open. He did beat Sullivan down the sideline. Now Krushank with a long pass into the end zone.
Just knocked out of his hands.
Mitch Scott trying to come down with that one. He's being defended by Jamie Hoover. Two big men in the end zone.
For Wax to stay in this game, they're going to have their best line trade points with Vancouver's top team for as long as they can. Once their subs start to come on, you'll see Wax start to lose ground.
Well, Vancouver and Ottawa, certainly the two dominant cities in Ultimate in Canada. Vancouver winning 11 championships, and Ottawa close behind at 9. Here's a long one for Knowles. Knowles running under it, makes the catch, and here's Hoover looking for it. Hoover with a spectacular catch, and they knot it up at 1.
Fantastic play by Wax. That's what they have to do to win this tournament.
Absolutely beautiful long throw to Peter Knowles, and a nice soft pass into the end zone.
What they'll do is send it long 2 or 3 times, get Furious to respect their long game, then they'll start working it up short.
So Hoover had to stretch out for that one and makes a spectacular catch in the end zone to knot things up at 1. And here we'll take a look at the replay. James and Manon.
Just an incredible bid. That is typical Jamie layout.
Sure, he's glad the grass wasn't any longer.
What Mano means by that is if it touches any blade of grass, it's considered down. So it doesn't actually have to touch the ground, it has to touch grass.
And now we get a substitution for Ottawa Wax.
Pete, who caught that long throw, he's been playing 10 years, and he really is a key for the Wax deep game.
And here's Sullivan with the disc. Pretty good crowd on hand here for the finals. Sullivan going through his final instructions here, and he appears to be set.
This is a big point for Wax. They really have to D this and punch it in for a score.
Krushank with a pass, lays it off there. Sullivan covering that man. And now here's Lugsdin up the sideline for Mike Grant. Grant has a man going towards the end zone. That closes off. And now it comes back to Savage. Savage over to John. They go to McDonald. McDonald looking for an outlet. He finds it in Lugsdin. They go to the end zone, and a catch made by Furious George. And it's 2-1 Furious.
Just out of reach of the Ottawa defender.
Yeah, I thought Biff had a bit on that, but he was a little early on his jump. But that's what they're going to do all day. They're going to be going long, and it's the same offense for Wax and Furious. What they use is a dump, so they'll have one person handling, one person dump. If it gets high stall count, it goes back to the center, and they look long.
And so Furious George takes a 2-1 lead here.
Just a reminder, there's plenty of food up here at the kitchen and cold beer.
Hey, Kirk.
And Furious George getting set to pull here.
Furious knows that they've got Wax a little bit down right now, and they've got to really do the same thing Wax tried to do last point. They've got to stuff and score. They've got to play big D here and get a point. If they do that, they'll pull away, and Wax will start to get down on themselves.
And the popularity of Ultimate has increased dramatically in the last 5-10 years, I would say, and especially in Ottawa. Any reason for that?
Ottawa is a really big high-tech sector, and it seems that there's a lot of high-tech people playing Ultimate. A lot of high-tech and a lot of teachers. Ottawa seems to be really big in that area.
The demographics of the Ottawa area just seem to fit with the sport.
Handled by Ayub. Ayub goes to Tether. Up to Knowles. Now they work it back around. Ayub handling, and now Knowles is open in the middle. They didn't get him the disc. Foul called. And that's one of the interesting aspects of Ultimate, the fact that it's a self-governing sport, so you call your own fouls.
Big part of that is called spirit of the game. So the fouls will be called, but we try not to do it too much or to cheat. Really tried not to cheat with it.
Hoover diving in there to make that reception.
Last time, man. Nice cut, baby.
Tether standing back, waiting for a pass. Now it goes to the middle of the field as Ottawa Wax working for position. Pass not